Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our IEEE-USA webinar, 2024 Economy and the Job Hunt. I'm your host, Jonathan Cho. Our presenter for today is career coach and three-time best-selling author Elizabeth Lyons, who joins us again for another crucial career topic that promises to enhance your professional journeys. Elizabeth stands apart in the coaching realm as the author of transformative books like I Quit, Working for You Isn't Working for Me, and Hear Us Roar. Her focus isn't just on coaching, it's on revolutionizing career trajectories. While many coaches offer guidance, Elizabeth provides strategic blueprints honed from her insider knowledge. Her coaching isn't just about securing promotions or navigating job markets, it's a career metamorphosis. Clients span the elite echelons of major corporations like FIS, Microsoft, and Amazon, attributing their successes to her coaching. Whether it's decoding the intricacies of career advancement, skillfully managing career crises, or nurturing leaders to ascend to their next level, Elizabeth's coaching delivers transformative, career-defining results. Without further ado, I will now pass it off to our presenter. Welcome back, Elizabeth. We're very excited for what you have in store for our audience today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here too. I think everybody's got lots of questions about the back half of the year and how their job search is going to be, what happens next year. And so we'll be able to address all of that today for sure.
Can't wait.
All right, I'm going to dive right in. So today we're going to talk about the economy and the job hunt. Many have asked me, what I see in terms of the economy and what's going on. And I've got lots of clients going through my coaching programs right now. And I think what I can give you some good tips and tricks in terms of how to position yourselves if you are in a confidential job search, if you're actively looking, if you're passively looking, wherever you are. I think I may be able to help you understand what's going on out there. It's really important to understand the economy when it comes to your job search, because that'll help you to identify jobs that will still be there in the future. It'll help you to identify key industries you should be looking at or not looking at. So we're going to dive right in today. We're going to talk today about the in-demand industries. We'll talk about job search strategies for the back end of the year and the role of networking and how critical it will be in this next section of your job search and probably for the next year. So my name is Elizabeth Lyons. I am an author of 3 books. I Quit, Working for You, Working for Me was the second one. And Hear Us Roar, Unapologetic Women Leading in Corporate America was my third book. What makes me a little different in coaching realms is that I'm still in the game. I still recruit high-level talent in the cyberspace. What does that mean? I read a lot of resumes. I talk to a lot of people. I'm joined in a lot of groups. I've just joined a group called Cyversity. If you haven't heard of that, I'm a vice president there within that group, the local group in Dallas that looks for cyber talent. So I'm still pretty active out there in networking groups and giving back to the community. And so what that means is I really do know why you're hired, fired, and promoted before you do. I'll get the call when there's an opening. I'll get the call when you're promoted. Sometimes I help people get promoted. So that all feeds back into my coaching business, which helps me to be a powerful advocate for you and a good advisor for you. So I'm going to get right to it here. Some of this is not real fun to talk about, but if I don't arm you with all the facts, you're not going to be well prepared. So about 6 months, I kept hearing, I don't know what it is. I apply to jobs. I'm a good fit. I'm a white collar employee. I'm a high level engineer. I'm a high level executive, and I cannot for the life of me find work. And I don't understand that because we're talking about 4% unemployment, and none of this makes sense to me. And I started to look at that and think, there must be something going on. And this right here, this slide, this data was actually very hard to find. This is not on the front of Yahoo News. This is not on the front of any news, really. You have to really dig into business news to kind of find it. But they are calling it a white collar recession right now and have been for many months. And what we're seeing overall this year is a slowdown in hiring in jobs that are $100,000-ish or above. We're seeing lots of applicants. We're seeing companies start, recruit, post ads, pull back, interview for 3 months, 4 months, cancel the whole rack. We're seeing a lot of that. What we are seeing is blue collar jobs are very secure. So I'll give you an example. We had some work done on the house, and I had a plumber come out, and he's got plenty of work, and he's really not worried about AI taking his job whatsoever. I had some electricians come out, same thing. They're doing very well, making very good money, and not worried about their job and their future at all. What we are seeing in terms of growth, the back end of the year, is healthcare and government jobs is going to dominate the growth. So government contract kind of jobs, you're going to see an increase there. Healthcare, you're going to see an increase there. The tech is definitely being hit hard. There's no question about it. Nearly 300 tech companies have terminated over 81,000 workers in 2024. And, then there are other smaller tech companies that have also done a lot of layoffs, and they may or may not have to report those layoffs. And so not a great space for the tech people to be in right now. And I'll talk about why a little later in the presentation, why they're hit particularly hard and why we're all kind of going through this right now. But the white collar roles that require really specialized skills that match exact job requirements, those are getting hired. So for example, I recently did a recruitment in threat hunt, red team, blue team, purple team. That's a very difficult skill set to find. So that they're definitely going to hire. When I look at certain data analytics skills or certain pockets of AI jobs that are coming up, again, very hard to find, very few qualified. Those we are definitely seeing are moving to hire. So if it's very niche, very specialized, you're going to have a low applicant pool. You're going to have a better opportunity for landing that position. And the interviews are probably not going to take long either for them to make a decision. So earlier in the year, I did a similar presentation around the economy, and this slide was in there if you saw my first presentation on this. And I wanted to slide this in the deck again because when we start to talk about recession, we've been talking about it for quite a while now, the interesting thing is no one agrees. So this slide, this data was from the beginning of this year in 2024. And when you look at all these sources, the question was asked, what's the probability of recession in the next 12 months? Well, August 1st is tomorrow. So we're really in the year of 2024 here. And you'll see everybody has a different idea about what it is. You're look at Bank of America, they're saying it's a 40% chance this year. You look at economists, they're saying a 48% chance. The Federal Reserve staff is saying there's no chance. So this is very highly unusual. I've done this work for close to 25 years now. And I had sources that I looked at that would be really good indicators for when recession would happen so that people could prepare, they could upskill, we would kind of know what was happening. And the sources that I consistently looked at were Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase. I always looked at unemployment data as well. But what I found consistently over the years was what they predicted and what they published was actually not only accurate, but a little on the conservative side. So people had plenty of time to plan and kind of get ready and brace for the next storm. I started looking at this recession stuff in 2023, honestly, and I started to see this pattern here where it's just all over the board and nobody agrees. And the reason nobody agrees is because the models are all wonky right now with post-pandemic and lots of other economic reasons. So we still don't know. but could it be coming? Maybe. I mean, we do know AI is coming. We do know that there's going to be some shifts in skill sets there. We don't even know where that'll hit or how fast that'll hit. We do know that they're not telling us. That I can tell you for a fact. In terms of the overall economic outlook, if you look at unemployment right now, it's up a skosh. It's at 4.10. And that's compared to 4% in June. And this time last year, it was 3.6. So it is going up a bit. And so what you'll see is when that starts to happen is the market is really, in my opinion, the market is really like 5 or 6 of the largest players in tech, banking, and financial. Those players kind of get together and make a decision. Oh, I think we'll pull back on hiring. Oh, I think we're going to look at our retention. I think we're going to look at this or that. And when they make those decisions, the rest of the market follows suit, which is what you experience when you apply to the ads, or what you experience when you go to offer, or what you don't experience when you go to offer. So what you are seeing now is start stop in the ads. Start stop definitely in the summertime. I'm seeing positions open, then go on hold for 2 weeks because everybody's out on vacation. So a lot of start stop. A lot of gee whiz, do we have the budget for this now? We did in January. Do we want to spend it there now? Lots of those sorts of things happening across the market. And so what you see as the end user of applying for jobs or passively looking, what have you, is start stop in the market, indecisiveness in the market, scary headlines in the market. That's what you're starting to see. Overall, what we would consider long-term average of unemployment would be 5.69, which clearly we're under that. But when you talk to the white collar workers, they're like, well, that's not me. And I had clients like that the last few months that were like, I don't know who's getting hired because it's not me. And when I look at ads, there are hundreds of people that have applied and it's been posted for a couple of weeks. So it's interesting how people's experiences are not what the headlines read, which is what made me start to really kind of dig into what is going on. So here's some general things that are going on out there. There is a phrase now called the big stay, which is different than quiet quitting. This is like the next phase. And the big stay is really about people starting to not make any job changes, deciding to stay in one place for a while, concerned about the market. They were paid very well when they took the job a year or two ago. They're going to hunker down and weather the storm. People are also doing much longer term job hunts overall. At the high level, professional, technical, I mean, their job searches, I've seen some of them 6 months, a year, where in pandemic that, it's like 90 days, for a large salary to move. So it's definitely changed. There's no doubt about it. We are seeing lateral pay moves where people, if they do make a job change, they'll take a lateral. I'm hearing myself in my own conversations. People are not coming out of the gate saying they want $20,000 increases, $30,000 increases. It's interesting. They disclose immediately, which they don't have to by law, what they make and where they want to be. They'll say it can be about the same. So people's motivations for moving is also changing as well. I already talked about the companies being a little indecisive right now. The election is not helping that at all in terms of where we're going to land and all this stuff. So there is this sense of pulling back. Clients that I work with now, what I'm telling them is you can start your job search now. I think it's fine, but get in your head, you may not land an offer until first quarter of next year. That's a reasonable expectation. You could go earlier, you may not, but because of the election, I think that until that clears out and things move as they move, you may not see anything. And especially if you're at a higher level salary at this point. Fed rates. So that's always the big topic. We are seeing inflation stabilize a bit. And me personally, I'm seeing it stabilize a bit, which is kind of nice. When they were reporting that it was getting better, I didn't know anybody, including myself, that thought it was getting better. I mean, the gas prices were high. My food bills were high, very high for two people in our home. Going out to eat was ridiculous. I was at Starbucks the other day with my husband having coffee on Sunday morning, and there was a man that was in front of him, and he had two little girls and his wife and him. And my husband whispered to me, that was $40 for his kids to get a couple of cake pops and 2 hot chocolates and 2 coffees. And he goes, that's what it costs. If you want to go to Starbucks, it's $40. And he said, that guy doesn't care. He just wants peace and quiet and, 10 minutes to drink a coffee on a Sunday. But I mean, that's, we're looking at inflation. I mean, that's the kinds of things that we're talking about, and people have cut in their own budgets. So that seems to be stabilizing and getting a little better. We'll have to see what that looks like next year. We all know the housing prices and the interest rates are insane. They're absolutely crazy right now. And the biggest piece that's causing concern and frankly pandemonium in the market is the wage increases since the pandemic. So this is kind of where companies are at. So let's just take a simple scale, like let's say a business analyst, right? So companies are literally saying, before the pandemic, that exact mid-level business analyst was $85,000 a year, about. And now I'm paying $120,000. And so I know it's not 120, but it's not 85 either, but I don't know what it really is because everybody's costs have gone up, but I know that I overpaid in pandemic and would do anything to get that thing filled. And that's really where companies are at this point. That's causing a big mess. There was a ton of people that got leadership level roles for $30, $40, $50,000 more that have never been a leader a day in their life. And there's a whole bunch of people that are reporting to them because I get those calls every day. It's very painful for the people that are reporting to them. So we've overpaid and we've overinflated, but we don't know quite what it is. And then the big stay is not helping either, which brings me to my next slide, which no one is talking about. I saw this in the end of April of this year, and it was a video on YouTube from the Wall Street Journal, and it was about forced attrition. And so if you don't know what forced attrition is, it's a way that companies can force people out and right size for the good and the health of the financial health of the company. Ultimately is really what it's about. It sounds mean and cruel, but it's not. And when you have the big stay and nobody is moving and talent isn't moving in and out of the market, just like money, if it doesn't flow, it causes problems. And if you've already overpaid for a whole bunch of salaries and they're not performing now, they're not even at meets, and you've overpaid them and overinflated them, and everybody's sitting down at their desks, and we're not really producing that much anymore, that's highly problematic for our economy, particularly in our country. The way it is set up, like it or not, this is the way it's set up. Goods and services, the flow of money, the stock market is what makes us go round. So companies have started this very quiet thing, the Wall Street Journal pointed out, called forced attrition. And you know it, but you just don't know you know it. And so here's what it sounds like. Everybody go in the office 3 days a week. Okay, we all go in the office 3 days a week. Everybody who's going in the office 3 days a week, if you don't live 60 miles from the office, you have to move. Right now, you have to move, and we will give you a relocation package of $5,000. Like, I am not. What is the problem? I live an hour and 15 minutes away. Why do I? Nope. Everybody, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to go in the office and you're going to have to move. And you're like, I'm not selling my house and moving closer and uprooting my kids out of school for $5,000 for your relo. And so that person sits until eventually they go, oh, you didn't move? We gave you 6 months or a year. You are now reorged and out the door. That's how it starts to look. The second way it starts to look is you go knocking on the door for promotion. You're like, hey, I'd really like to be a lead. I'd really like to get in leadership. I'd really like to do this next thing. Can we talk about what's my career path? Can we talk about options for me? Can we talk about development plan? And what do I need to do to get from here and there? And they actually say, you are more than welcome to apply to something internally. And you can take that step up for lateral pay. You're like, wait a minute. So I'm going to get a promotion. I'm going to get a title increase and more work and more responsibility and no extra money. They're like, yeah, that's right. We're not doing that. We don't know when we're going to go back to doing that. There's not going to be an increase of 10% or 15% or, internals can get blah, blah, blah. Nope, we're not doing that anymore. And I have heard that from a handful of companies the last few months. And the message is, there's no career path for you here. Please leave. So it's not very nice for some people that want to stay, that do want to grow their careers and do want to contribute. And it is called officially forced attrition. And if you look online, you're going to have a heck of a time finding what it is and why it's going on, but it is. And so that is going to impact your job search, because until people move, promote, retire, go on maternity leave and don't come back, until that happens, this whole, what does it really cost? What does the skill set really demand? Where are we going to have it? What's the co-locations that we're going to have it in? And how's it going to work out? That impacts you in the job search right now. And that, I don't know when that changes or if that changes next year. It could post-election. It might, but I don't know. But I can tell you it's absolutely happening for sure. The biggest thing I have seen in the job search the last 6 months that I want to take a little time and talk about is networking. And what I'm finding is if you feel or you think after this presentation you are in a white collar recession, I can tell you the only way to speed up your time to hire is going to be networking, effective networking. Good quality networking. That's what I saw with my own clients and others out there that are passively looking and that they're seriously looking. So what I mean by networking is not necessarily getting a whole bunch of names and cold calling and so forth, but really strategically looking at what industry do I want to be in, where do I want to be, finding those key relationships and just asking them very simply, what's it like to work there? Is it any good? Because you want to not get yourself caught in the same position you're already in and leaving. So really asking them like, hey, what's really going on in there? In fact, this morning at 6:00, I have a good friend from banking and financial. Actually, he's an old fintech buddy of mine. He literally was like, here's what's going on in my company. How is it there? So that's how we in the fintech, payment, banking, financial space, if we have really good friends, we'll do that. We'll be like, what's going on over there? Because we can't tell if it's an industry thing or if it's an us, our company thing. And so when you're networking, it would be really wise if you're not looking in the segments I just said, which was what, healthcare and government. If you're not looking there, you might want, if you're looking in other places, and particularly tech, good Lord, I don't know why anybody would look there right now, but if you have to look there, call somebody in that job or in that area and say, what do you know about this company? Are they good? Are you hearing of layoffs? What's going on? Because not all layoffs are out there in the press. And I'll tell you why. This goes back to forced attrition. Companies that are having layoffs don't like it going in the press because it makes the stock go crazy. And it also makes their top performers dust off their resume and want to go back out there and look for another job. So they want to control that and control the message. And so they may or may not be having layoffs or having rumblings of layoffs, and they may not hit the news whatsoever. By law, you only have to be a certain company size and a number of layoffs to have to publicly say something about it. So there's lots that go on there that you may not hear about unless you were truly networking. And then the other piece you can do in networking is you ask somebody to just review your resume. So you're not asking for the interview necessarily, but you are saying, would you just review my resume and let me know if I'm a fit for the position? And at least now you're out of the other applicants and at least you're bubbled kind of to the top. So networking with somebody you don't know that's in a company and asking them politely to do that, that's a very good strategy. And I'm finding that is working right now. Applying to ads, not so much. It could sit in that applicant tracking system for weeks and months and not even get the decline. It's just dead air. The networking has proven since the spring to be very solid in people landing faster, better. I would not say more lucrative, but I would say, getting off the market and getting something right now ready to roll. So I always like to say, for anybody within the IEEE that sees this, if you want to connect with me and have me just review your resume, I'm happy to do that for a few minutes. If you've got career questions, like concerns that you have, I'm more than happy to set up a 15-minute call with you. Why you would consider a coach is exactly that. It would make your time to hire go down. These are professionals that understand the game. I certainly understand the game and how to get somebody from A to B within a process, and that's comfortable and smooth. Sometimes when you don't do that and you don't invest, you can bang around for a long time. The last two clients I had, they're very high level executives. They saw me speak and they engaged and they said, I thought I could do it for myself. I've been trying to do it by myself for 8 months. It's not working. I need a professional to help me. And we were able to get them moving very quickly, and both landed, and they landed through networking from the networking plan that I prescribed for them. So don't go it alone. I mean, you can see a lot of stuff online. You can, read a lot. I mean, AI even has a coaching function now, but ultimately for some to partner with a professional makes the most amount of sense. The biggest thing that I want to leave you with is to be careful in your career and in your job search now. You don't want to be running from a situation right into another bad situation. You just don't, because with the uncertainty in the market and into next year, we don't know. And so if you need to stay, stay. If you need to stay and evaluate in 6 months or 8 months, if you're to leave or not, that's okay. Have the conversations internally, give your boss and the organization a chance. That's all okay. You're much better to slow down and be thoughtful than you are to rush out of there and make a poor decision and then end up someplace else in 6 months that isn't going to work out long term. So that kind of concludes us for today. Again, I think I mentioned the 15-minute consult. You're more than welcome to take me up on that. I did refresh my site, so I'd love it if you visit my site at lionsology.com. I've got some cool stuff on there. I've got some clips of my ChatGPT talk that I did earlier this year in the job hunt. The IEEE also graciously hosted me earlier this year on ChatGPT and the job hunt. You can find that online as well through the IEEE. So I'm happy to connect with you however works for you. And that's all I had, Jonathan.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Great presentation. So folks, we are now at the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please post your questions in the comment section and we'll load them onto the stream for Elizabeth to answer. We did receive some questions while we're waiting on some more. Elizabeth, I would like to ask just a few to get the conversation rolling. So, as you mentioned, we did have your webinar, ChatGPT in the Workplace webinar earlier this year, folks. You can check that out in our webinar catalog. It's really a great, insightful webinar. So my question is, with technology becoming much more advanced and AI becoming, much more prevalent in the job market space, how important is personal branding for job seekers, especially in light of AI-powered recruitment? Because, these days, bigger companies with a lot that get a lot of candidates, that it's hard to manage all of those just with humans.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think, I don't know. People think I'm a big fan of branding, but I'm really a big fan of being authentic. So I think whoever you are, if you can articulate what your strengths are and what you have to give to an organization, that's enough. And that's very powerful. And then right now, in terms of recruitment, we are not seeing companies using AI in recruitment yet. And what I'm talking specifically is, as a recruiter, they're not coming in, sitting down at their desks and being handed a slate of candidates and saying, call these, this is a diverse slate, this fits our qualification, call these first. Or we're not finding it's loaded heavily into tools right now. Now in a year or two, I'm not sure. And especially you have to be very careful with it, especially when you get into DEI and inclusion and just legally, in terms of that. My personal feeling around that is, I've done this work a long time, and I've done it through knowing people and shaking their hands and webinars like this and meeting people. And so I am not a fan of the day that I might walk in and they're like, here's 10 people, call them. And, or here's a tool, dig and find them. Because if I met you at a networking event and I was intrigued by you and you had a good skill set, I would invite you to apply and I would pull you into the spread. And so I don't ever want that to go away within recruiting. I also understand the way that I do it, and I'm a big relationship builder, that it's an old art. It's just not done anymore. You look at the recruiters the last 15 years, they can't do what I do. Mm-hmm. So we'll see where AI goes with recruitment. We'll see what's more to come on that in the next couple of years.
Gotcha. Very insightful. Thank you. So we'll go ahead and start with our audience member question. So first question that we received earlier, Tom asks, what's your view on age discrimination?
Yeah, you're not going to like this. I really believe in it because I've seen this. Okay, I've seen this. And the two executives that came to me that were placed, that found the job through networking, one of them did ask this question. I think both of them did, actually. And they were both white males, for whatever fodder that's worth. And I sat them down and I looked them in the eye and I said, how you see yourself is 100% what your experience is going to be. Now, that's not to say that being polished, being fit, having energy, still showing passion and excitement for what you do, that's going to color you as an exciting candidate. I mean, that, you know, if there's 5 candidates in the spread and you come off like that, that's going to get noticed above the others. There's no question. But in terms of age discrimination, in my experience and what I've seen, is what you think about, you bring about. And so if you think it's a big problem, then you're going to probably experience it's a big problem. And if you don't think it's a big problem and you think you have something to give, and even if you're over 60, because I've met these guys, and mostly they're guys, I'll tell you, they're guys, and they're like, Elizabeth, I got one more rodeo in me. Like, I'm just not done. Like, I've known guys that were millionaires many times over, did not need the money. And they never saw themselves as an age discrimination issue, or wouldn't be hired because they knew they had something to give. And they're bound and determined to find it. So I think age discrimination, you know, I mean, it's like a female asking me, well, don't you think that women are treated unfairly in certain industries? I never had that happen. I can't tell you it doesn't happen, but I can tell you in my experience, I didn't have that happen. My whole 3rd book is about that. It's about just that. Heroes for is about that. So I don't know, Tom, I don't know that that's the answer you want, but I think that how you see yourself and what you have to give is innate and special and beautiful. And I would focus on that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Elizabeth. And thanks for the question, Tom. So this next, I'm not sure if it was meant to be framed in a question, but statement from Edward Perkins, one of our prominent IEEE members. We're organizing an AI career event in Seattle on August 24th, 25th, and originally we expected to have a large virtual career associated, but no one wants to recruit in person or remote. First off, Ed, feel free to send me the details, and we'd be happy to help promote that event. Whatever we can do. Any advice or tips, Elizabeth, on how to kind of help with that? Just for anyone who wants to plan like a virtual career. You know, I guess from what I've heard with other organizations, or just for career fairs in general. Seems to be very varied on what companies are looking for in terms of at a career fair. Some people are there to strictly hire certain candidates. Others are there just to kind of like wade the waters and see what people are available. Any thoughts?
Yeah. So first of all, I've known Ed Perkins, oh my God, I think 25 years. And he actually got me invited into the IEEE all those many years ago in Portland, Oregon. And so I'm so thrilled to see you pop up here. I'll absolutely help you with this event. So email me, I'll put it on my LinkedIn. I'm happy to do that. I think it looks like a great event, AI career event in Seattle. I think that it could have some good things there. And you're right. I think some companies go just for branding. They're not necessarily looking for candidates or going for branding. It depends on the event. If you look at Grace Hopper last year, I was a part of that, and that is that's a zoo. There were 40,000 people at that conference. I was in. 40,000. It's like an entire city in a coliseum. I mean, it was just so beyond overwhelming. So I think there is a time and a place for them. I think that what I'm seeing is people want to get out and they want to shake hands. Like Cyversity, they are so excited for our first Dallas event. They were very clear, like, we do not want virtual events. We want to get out. We want to shake hands. We want to see people. So I think you're going to see more people going to these kinds of career events, if nothing else, but for networking and so forth. So great to see you, Ed. Really nice to see you.
Thanks for the question, or thanks for chiming in, Ed. And again, feel free to send me the details as well. IEEE-USA would be happy to promote that as well. Thanks, Elizabeth. So this next question, our audience member Chris, I always hear don't have a too long a resume. Mine is 4 pages because that's how long I have worked. Am I giving away my age? I get interviews, but no takers yet. Been out almost a year.
Yeah. When we say too long, I'm talking literally the 15-page one that was sent to me the other day. Wow. And I think a couple of months before that, I got another one that was 12 pages, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And I wrote the candidate. I've never done this. And I wrote the candidate. I'm like, I can't read 12 pages. Can you just give me 2? So, your 4 pages is fine, Chris. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I don't think it's an age thing at all, my friend. I mean, you are what you are. You know, you're a seasoned professional. There's still plenty of room for them out there. I would just say, you know, probably hone in on the network, and it might shorten your time to hire.
Great question, Chris. And so Elizabeth, I guess to kind of go off on that. So would you even go as far as to say that a long, I think 15 pages is
It's
probably a
really
bit
long.
it's a bit excessive. Would
It's
you say
really
that almost becomes deterrent as a potential candidate?
Well, it does for me because I've done this work a long time, and like it's 6 pages in through the minutia of the skill set before I can get to where did you work, how long did you work there, where did you work, and it's also it makes you start to feel like you're hiding something, like what is really going on here. And then when you get 6 pages deep, you find out they've been a career contractor.
Mm,
So it's like, okay, maybe that's what you were hiding, or you're hiding, you have a visa issue or something. So, yeah, when you get into very long resumes like that, and, you know, and you get somebody like me that's been around the block and has done it a long time, we don't have time. We don't want to do that for 10 minutes. And we're not
for
looking
sure.
that closely, right? We're just trying to see if you're qualified, if there's enough here on paper that's going to make you, you have to be qualified, right? And
Mhm.
that's going to make you frankly worth our time in a half hour 45-minute screen to bring you in, right? And so that's all the resume has to be. And I know engineers and a lot of people get really caught up in, they think they have to write down everything that they ever did. And the big disconnect right now I see with resumes, and it's been going on, it's a trend, it's been going on about 4 months, is they send the resume but it has nothing to do with what they applied for.
Mm,
Nothing to do. So what, I don't want to know what you did. I want to know you did what I'm asking for on this job, and specifically the qualifications. And we get so caught up in who I am and what I've done and the pride around that, that we miss that we're applying to a role and we're really there to help them and answer and fix their problems, right? And so there's this big disconnect there. And I think if that gap gets closed, then you're going to have more people getting calls to interview, frankly.
for sure, and I totally agree on that. It's almost it kind of sounds to me, it kind of seems to me when someone has an overly long resume, it kind of seems like they don't really, or there may be an underlying issue of not being able to be communicate or being able to effectively communicate what your value is aside from
Mm-hmm.
quantity over quantity. So I mean that is a skill that needs to be developed. So but for sure, thank you. So our next question, audience member asks, how has remote work impacted job opportunities and hiring practices in 2024?
Yeah, what we're seeing in 2024, and I think you're going to see more in 2025, is you're going to see a lot of hybrid work. Um, and it's still effective. I mean, I don't think even executives don't want to go on 5 days a week. They just don't. They want to be off Friday and probably Monday. So I think that if you're looking for 100% remote work, it's not out there anymore. And the flagship companies, it's not out there anymore. And they are showing that that collaboration is imperative to culture, is imperative to keeping America sharp and keeping us going and moving, and frankly, keeping us a top world leader. And so I think what you're going to continue to see is the hybrid work, but the 100% remote work, you know, that's kind of like gone away with. We're definitely post-pandemic era in that.
Hmm. And that's a very interesting point that you just made out. So we actually recently had a another webinar on hybrid and remote work, and one of the main key and some of the techniques, I guess, strategies that a lot of companies that seem to be making is one main point from that webinar was that hybrid is probably the best way, but there are still companies that want to go full in person or transition back to full in person, and
Mm-hmm.
that there's a trend where that's not really working. That's not what people are willing to go into anymore. And it really, I think it kind of brings back to your point on forced attrition, and
Yeah.
it's not good. So
Yeah,
really great that you
exactly.
admit that.
Well, there was a time where the people had the power, and I can tell you that that ship has sailed.
Mm,
implicitly. So it's like if you want to work and you want to be a part of something, you got to go in 3 days a week. You got to be a part of something 3 days a week. Once in a while, you'll see some pockets where they don't care. I've seen some very high level cyber jobs where they'll have them remote still. I've seen some very, very high level sales kind of jobs, engagement manager kind of jobs, big companies where they're on a plane anyway, 80% of the time. So it's fine for them to be remote. But I mean, generally across the board in engineering and IT, it's 3 days a week for sure.
Right. There definitely are some roles that, have to be, in person all the time, but there are some that can afford to not be, but it definitely depends on the leadership of the organization too, for sure. But so this next question from our audience member, what advice do you have for someone looking to change careers in 2024? How can I leverage my existing skills and experiences when transitioning to a new industry? And you may feel free to answer these one at a time
Yeah.
because it is a multi-question question. What resources are available for professionals considering a career change? How can I address potential gaps in my resume during a career transition?
I think that's hard. Doesn't matter what the year is. If you're doing a career change, it's difficult. And I would encourage you to see the other side, which right now you're steeped in. I want to make a career change. This is what I want to do with my life. And the other thing is like if you're book knowledge heavy, but you don't have any hands-on experience, companies are not. It depends what you're looking at, but most companies are not thrilled about hiring that candidate. And in fairness, you don't stack up to the other candidates. Like I have a candidate right now that has spent a lot of time in academia, has all kinds of cyber knowledge, but I wouldn't want his hand on keyboard. I would want him in an extremely low level position that he could just understand basic infrastructure, understand a basic escalation path within cyber, et cetera. So really, if you're going to do a change, it depends on what you're looking at changing, and then what would be the entry road onto that. That's the best I can tell you. But to understand the resistance and the applicants that you're already going up against in a white collar recession is already there. It's going to be hard. I mean, it's going to be very hard. It can be done. I mean, and I would have reasonable expectations. Give yourself a year. Give yourself a lot of time to really kind of pull that together. In terms of potential gaps during a career transition, sometimes I think you just simply state whatever it is. So if you went to school during that time, right, during this time I went to school. So that closes those gaps. Just say what it is. Put an entry in there in the years or the time and say what it is. If it was a contract, say it was a contract, say it was completed. It's a reader. It's a person that's reading it still. It's not AI. So just make it easy for the reader. And I wouldn't be embarrassed about it. It is what it is. And just be forthright about it and go from there. And I think, again, networking is going to be your key. I mean, at the end of the day, people hire people. Because if you keep applying to the ATS, you're probably going to get declined. Because when they click not best qualified candidate, that's the truth when it comes to you. They've got candidates that have done the job. They've got candidates that are closer match. That's true. So the only way to get around that is people hire people and start to network and figure out who hires somebody like you. And I don't know where to start for that, but that's the best path is what I would tell you to go with rather than just applying online.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. I hope that answers your question. Next question from our audience member, Khalid asks, are companies considering short-term contract work if they are hesitant to commit to hiring permanent?
I'm not seeing that. I'm not saying they're not, but I'm not seeing that. So what you're really saying, Khalid, is there's a swing where they stop hiring the full-time and they backfill with the contractor. They're just not hiring. They're just pulling back. They're pulling back. They want to see what the election's going to do. They definitely want to see what the immigration policy is going to do next year. There's lots of things going on. And so I'm not seeing, no, people are just going to keep working. And we got forced attrition. So like a big chunk should have left and didn't. And they don't seem to be overworked. So it's not like, hey, I can't fill my position. Can I backfill with the contractors? Like, no, everybody can actually do the work and is doing the work and might not even be a meets and doing the work, right? Not exceeds, not even meets. No, we're not. Why would we spend more money and hire contractors? I'm not seeing it and hearing it either. for sure.
Thanks for the question. This question, kind of you've addressed it already, but just wanted to focus on it again for those who may have missed the answer. Joe asks, any advice for people who went back to school for a time and probably
Like,
pause in their employment history as a result of school?
I would just state that. I would just state, and I would just state that, as an entry, not down at the bottom, right? Because you'll have your education, but I would state as an entry that you went to school and just state it, and then there. I mean, it's truthful. I don't think there's anything to be embarrassed about there. I think you're better to position it that way than to try to have a big gap there and a bunch of questions.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and thanks for the question, Joe. This next question, how can freshers with master's degree stand out in a job market that favors experienced candidates even for early career jobs?
Well, first of all, we don't call them freshers in the US, so stop doing that. We don't call them that. We call them interns. We call them whatever. We don't call them freshers. And that right there is going to have everybody know that you're not like here. So I would get with that. You're not. You cannot doll up and deceive what you're not. So you're not experienced. You're not. You're not. So embrace it. I'm not. I have to learn. I have to start somewhere. I have to do something. It's not like you can't do what they can do. It's not like, you've got great book knowledge and great energy and worked a couple cool internships, and therefore you're as great as the 5-year mid-level candidate. It's not true. That's not what they're looking for. If they posted the 5-year candidate, that's what they're looking for. There isn't a way that you're going to cut a line. And I think that's a real problem. So the younger generation is like, I can just get online and be an influencer and make money, or I can just cut the line here or there and do this or that. And when it comes to jobs, you really can't. What they're posting for is what they're posting for. There isn't going to be a way to stand out. There are thousands like you banging on the doors. What I do find a huge detriment that everybody doesn't do, which you could do, which is meet people. I just got involved with Collin County College. They have a 2-year associate cyber degree. They're the only ones here in Dallas that have that. They came to me and said, would you look at our curriculum and tell us if it's any good? And I said, sure. And I'm now part of an advisory board there. And the very rough conversation I had with them was simply this. All of your students want to just apply online and wait and think something good is going to happen to them. And what they need to do is they need to network, and they need to look in somebody's eye and ask questions about the company, or ask somebody about their career path, and meet people and get out of this online thing. I've seen people that graduate with great degrees, they can't find work, but none of them will take that extra step. So if you'll take that extra step and meet people in companies and go to like live IEEE events or other events, you right there are going to be miles ahead of your peers in finding a job. You're not going to get the seasoned job, but you're going to get a good job.
And going off of that, like you said before, kind of just being authentic is, a really big way to get people to potentially hire you. Just being yourself, being friendly, or being, someone that people enjoy being around with. I've heard.
Yeah. I mean, if you're in your career, I mean, one of the most adorable questions a person can ask is like, how did you get to where you are, and do you like it? Like, you've done this 25 years. Do you like it even still? Like, what was your career path? Because what we're finding where there isn't a traditional career path anymore with IT or cyber. You could be in IT 20 years, go back and get into cyber. You could be in IT and end up somewhere else in your career. Your degree was in something even IT related, but that's not what you ended up doing. And so just to even ask people in companies like, I know that you're this title, and I guess it's just kind of a job, but do you like it? And what was your career path there? Because then you start to see that there's so many ways to get from point A to point B. And you start to see that there isn't a straight line for a lot of us. And it's very powerful to see if they still like it. Because first of all, if they don't like it, there's this big pause. And then what you really know is they had a family and they got a bigger house, and so they got promoted, and that was the end of their life. So, and that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but that's good to know. Like, and then you would say something like, well, then what if you could do something else? What would you do? Or if you could do it all over again, what would you do? Those are the kinds of questions, if you're young and starting out, that are people will answer. And now people will be more willing to say, hey, have you looked at this company? Hey, have you looked at this role? And that networking, that true networking and getting out from underneath the computer is what's going to get you there. Because the reality is too, the people that are hiring you were not brought up like you. The people that are in leadership positions were not born with an iPad in their hand. They weren't. They're used to conversations. They're used to eye contact. They're used to networking. They're used to who do you know? What do you know? They're used to that. So if you keep trying to interface with the world in the way you were growing up, and the people that are running the world now, they didn't do that. But they're more than willing to share and help you. But if you want to get ahead, do what your peers aren't doing. Get to know people, shake their hands, meet people.
For sure. Thanks, Elizabeth. Our audience member Victoria asks, hi, I've been told that most people take 6 to 10 seconds to read a resume. What do you recommend to put on the first page? So I guess if you had to put like a list of the top 3 items to put on a resume in that order,
Yeah.
what would you recommend?
In tech, it's really easy, Victoria. So the first thing is that profile. Your profile should be maybe 3 sentences long. So it's about our brains. It's about how we read and how we assimilate information. And so in those 3 sentences, I'm trying to understand, what industry did you come out of? How long have you worked in that industry? Are you mid-level? Are you senior? Are you junior? I want to know what maybe you're really good at and some skills. Like a profile, 15 years, fintech executive, expert in talent acquisition and hiring top talent. That you get what I'm saying. That's in your profile statement. Under that, in tech, definitely have your skills outlined. So that would be a good thing. Up at the top of your name, if you have any kind of certification or designation, please put that right after your name. So it would read Victoria Spinnaker, comma, CISSP, comma, CISA, comma, CSUM, if you were in cyber, for example, or if you have an MBA, put that up at the top, very visible. And if you have those 3 things within that 10 seconds, I know, like, oh, keep reading, or this isn't it. This isn't it at all. This isn't even close. That's what kind of, in IT, engineering, cyber, it's pretty clear usually if you guys do that in the beginning. And you're right, it's probably 10 seconds in that first top part. And then we either stop reading, or we decline, or we move on to the next. But if you have that, you think about it. What if you click an article, what pulls you in? It's the same sort of thing. Pull them in.
Thanks for the question, Victoria. So gonna focus. We have a couple more questions left before we close things off. This next question, also a multi-part question. Michael asks, what advice would you give to someone breaking into the field, particularly in terms of building a strong resume and gaining practical experience? Also, how do you see I'm not entirely sure what this is. Elizabeth?
Yeah, SANS certification. Yep.
Any thoughts?
So yeah, if you're breaking into cyber, it depends. I would have to you'd have to book time with me so I could really give you a good answer there. It depends, right? Some people are pivoting from a good, strong, robust IT career, or an infrastructure career, or a network career, or a systems career into cyber. There's a lot there. You think about that. You either know how the system was built, or you have had some touching of cyber escalations, even if it was small. You've done some. Those candidates transition very easily. If you're brand new and you haven't done any cyber and you can't find cyber roles, if you get into IT or help desk, that is your best bet. Or get into a SOC, eyes on glass. Great jobs to start and work your way into cyber. What you're going to get is a lot of really good foundational chops. The SANS GIAC is good. I think that's a good one to have for sure. I have seen it in terms of competitiveness. I have rolled off recruitment recently where they asked for it. So I think that's a good one to have as well. I think people want to get a lot of certifications and they don't have hands-on in cyber. And there's a point where it's just like too many certifications is a lot of money too. So, pick your certifications carefully, get a good job. The company will probably pay for the next one you want. So I think you're good with the GIAC if you want to stay at that. And don't worry too much about the certifications. If you've got one or two, you're probably okay, depending on where you want to go within cyber. And if you want to book time with me and get into like the nitty gritty of it, I can direct you a little better there as well. You're on mute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just saying, folks, we've also included Elizabeth's website link below at the bottom of the screen. Definitely check her out and get a consultation with her. Michael, hope that answers your question. Elizabeth, this will be our final question from our audience member before we close things off. How can we approach networking in a way that is both effective and genuine?
That is the best question I've been asked in like months. That's really good. I think take a deep breath and relax. I think you might be nervous or have anxiety around it. I think when you just relax, you are genuine. And I think if people really said whatever it was, the person on the other end would be very endeared and drawn to them. So I'll give you an example. When I was leaving a job after 10 plus years, I was very nervous in going out in the market, and I do this for a living. So that is kind of weird and embarrassing because now I became all the people that I've coached. I become me. I become what you all are you know what I mean? So it's weird. It's very weird. And I remember in my interviews in the first 10, 15 seconds, I said, thank you so much for interviewing me. As you can see, I'm not a job hopper. And I'd really appreciate it if you're, graceful with me and patient with me during the interview. I haven't done this in over 10 years. And they laughed. Every interviewer laughed. And I realized that I was a person and I was vulnerable and I was real. And I realized in that moment I was so accepted and they were so cool with me, right? And so I answered all the questions to the best of my ability. And if they wanted to know more, they drilled down and it was fine. So I think that if you just simply say what it is that you need. When we network, we sometimes think, oh, networking, I will get the job. No, you just really want your resume reviewed. You're stuck in an ATS. You don't want to sit there. And you can say that to someone. You can say, would you just please review my resume and just let me know if I'm a fit? I'm okay if I'm declined. That's genuine. That's forthright. That's real. That's vulnerable. But then it cuts to the chase. And what I think you're going to find is you're going to be received in this way. And then it won't be so scary for you or for anybody on this call, honestly.
Really great. Thank you. All right, everyone. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I know we could have gone on and on about this. And, with your feedback, if you enjoyed this content and the webinar, we'd be happy to host more on these kinds of topics. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us today and giving your expert insights on the insider's perspective on what hiring managers are seeking in the talent that they bring aboard. Always love having you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun, really fun. It's a great group. It always is. Thank you.
And thank you to our audience members as well. Before we end things off today, I have a few announcements. First, IEEE-USA is seeking nominations for the 2024 IEEE-USA Awards. Every year, the IEEE-USA Awards are given to recognize professionalism, technical achievement, and literary contributions to public awareness and the understanding of the engineering profession in the United States. You can find details on each award, eligibility, and nomination process on our website. The link has been provided in the comment section. Next, the IEEE-USA has opened up registration for 2 new upcoming events happening this fall. The first is the Packaging Chips with Chips Summit on October 17th in Scottsdale, Arizona. This one-day summit will bring together leading thinkers from chip packaging and design companies, along with government policymakers to discuss the semiconductor chip packaging industry in light of the historic CHIPS Act and the Materials to Fab Center coming to Arizona State University. If you are an industry leader in and around the computer chip manufacturing industry who wants a better idea of how the CHIPS Act will affect your businesses, this summit is for you. Second event is the IEEE-USA Innovation, Workforce, and Research Conference, or iWork for short. Continuing on the successes of the previous iWork conferences in Arkansas and South Dakota, IEEE-USA will be hosting its next event in Huntsville, Alabama this December 3rd through the 4th, with focus on aerospace and defense. This event will give you an opportunity to meet potential partners from U.S. federal agencies and to learn more about how you can contribute to the Alabama and the Southeast innovation ecosystem, and is an event you definitely don't want to miss. Finally, we're still seeking your help in identifying U.S. IEEE members who may be interested in and qualified for service on the IEEE-USA Board of Directors, including the 2026 IEEE-USA President-elect. Self-nominations are allowed, and the portal will accept nominations through August 26th. The deadline is coming up fast, so we recommend you send in your nominations as soon as possible. IEEE-USA webinar is designed to help you find your next job, maintain your career, understand ethical considerations in the workplace, and learn about other career building strategies and public policy developments that affect your profession. If you like the content presented in today's webinar, be sure to check out our other ones. We have an entire catalog of presentations available for your viewing pleasure on our website, with a number of career-focused webinars also presented by Elizabeth. In a sea of coaches, Elizabeth Lyons stands tall, offering a roadmap crafted from wisdom, experience, and a genuine passion for reshaping careers. If you're seeking more than guidance, a true transformation in your professional life, connect with Elizabeth today. Discover the power of a coaching experience that transcends the ordinary and leads to extraordinary results. Finally, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channels and check back daily on our social media for future live stream updates. Have a great day, everyone.
I had the coolest job that any electrical engineer could ever have on the ground crew for Solar Impulse 2, the first solar-powered airplane to fly around the world only using the power of the sun. IEEE-USA has given me a competitive edge because of their support system. It is so much easier doing something and being out of your comfort zone when you have someone there saying, "You got this." IEEE-USA is more than just a network. It's a family.
You